The recent nerfs have effectively drawn a line under the post-release phase of Cataclysm, which means it's time to sum things up and talk about the new trends that have taken shape in the meta. But most importantly, we want to share with you a list of the most useful legendary cards and compare their current impact with the community's expectations. As always, there's plenty of interesting stuff ahead, including the announcement of the predictor who made the most accurate forecast. Let's get started.
Time to rock and roll!
Hello my friends, my name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
In our previous video we mentioned that the impact of the Cataclysm expansion on Hearthstone is highly controversial and could spark heated debates for many years to come.
It seems our intuition is starting to come true. The post-release phase of Cataclysm ended with the unprecedented dominance of two core strategies, Imbued Druid and Herald Shaman. Together, these decks accounted for nearly 50% of the climb to Legend. After our recent report on the best decks, the situation has only worsened. The meta has narrowed significantly, and no new or surprising playstyles have emerged.
The last unexpected development was Gladiator Warrior, and it's an extremely toxic deck for the current game environment.
For the first time in many years we are seeing such slow meta development, and such low diversity, even within individual classes. Despite this, players have received the post-release period with great enthusiasm. Most of our viewers were generally satisfied with the new gameplay experience, which has been quite rare over the past 2 years, when new content more often led to disappointment at launch. Unfortunately, that enthusiasm didn't last long. Just before the balance patch went live, audience satisfaction dropped sharply from 65% to 52%. While this is still an impressive result given the instability of the past 2 years, it is also a concerning signal, as a major refresh of the game environment ended up delivering very mixed impressions after just 2 weeks. The core issue is that the balance patch was quite small, suggesting that the team is largely satisfied with the current state of the game. In terms of nerfs, they are targeting the two dominant classes Druid and Shaman, while also addressing the toxic Warrior combo deck. These are absolutely the right steps. However, the buffs have brought nothing particularly interesting. The team is mostly strengthening cards and strategies that are already part of the meta, which means we shouldn't expect new playstyles or increased class diversity anytime soon.
Let's finally move on to the most interesting part and talk about the usefulness of the new legendary cards, using them to take a closer look at the current meta. To prepare this list, Dora collected data from nearly 1,000 of the most popular meta decks across major statistical websites. We then fed all this data into our utility index algorithm, which independently and objectively identified the most useful cards based on 15 different metrics.
It's worth noting that the abnormal impact of Zilliax over the past 2 years forced the team to significantly improve the algorithm.
Primitive.
Cards now receive additional points if their efficiency and influence within a class exceed reasonable limits. As a result, cards can now break the algorithm by surpassing the 100% utility index threshold.
Additionally, due to the absence of the Duels mode and other alternative formats where your collection might matter, we decided to reduce the weight of non-standard formats in the final result. In recent years, this metric was represented solely by Wild. Instead, we further increased the importance of various performance-based metrics that determine a card's effectiveness.
Now that you understand all the nuances and how much effort went into this list, we'd like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. This is the best motivation for us to keep doing complex and meaningful work. Thank you so much. Also, exclusively for our sponsors, we prepared a text version of the list with detailed utility index scores for the Across the Timeways expansion. This is our way of thanking our patrons for financially supporting the channel.
Guys, as tradition dictates, let's start with the worst cards. In 27th place, we have Maloriak, a Warlock class card that hasn't found any viable use cases, even in experimental builds, including in Wild. Its utility index stands at 0%. Interestingly, both our viewers and prominent community members had a faint hope that the card would turn out at least slightly better than terrible. However, the overall HS set review ratings from users were completely ruthless, and closest to the truth. Morchok's usefulness turned out to be just slightly above 0%. This is a very expensive 10 mana card with impressive stats that draws a card from your deck and makes it free. To justify such a high cost, you need to pull and discount another expensive card, find a way to abuse its battlecry effect, or somehow exploit Morchok's base cost itself. From a purely statistical standpoint, This is a terrible card that may only be useful under very specific circumstances. When it comes to expectations versus reality, the most accurate prediction was made by Clark Hellscream.
Unlike the previous two cards, Isaraf at least saw a bit more play in localized experiments at lower ranks. Some players gave the card a chance. However, both deck performance and the card's impact on winning remained low. Overall, the community gave the card a very fair evaluation. In 24th place is Warmaster Blackhorn. We managed to find it in a Herald Death Knight meta deck, but the strategy's effectiveness is extremely low. It seems the pre-release nerf completely killed the card's potential, and prominent community members clearly recognized the dramatic drop in its usefulness.
In 23rd place is a card that I personally feared before release, and after the buff, I fear it even more. The Black Blood was initially a very well-balanced card with a potentially strong turnaround effect. It can generate significant value if your opponent's board isn't made up of massive minions. This effect is absurdly powerful and toxic in a meta built around board control, and now it has been further strengthened. The card itself doesn't seem hopelessly weak. The problem is that the meta simply doesn't allow you to survive until turn 7 to both heal and clear your opponent's board. Additionally, high-ranked players prefer only the quest archetype, ignoring other strategies within the class. Priest is the only class that had a real chance to increase its internal diversity. The question is whether this will be enough to make control archetypes viable, or if we'll just end up with another toxic card. Once again, Clark Hellscream's prediction turned out to be the closest to reality, although I still refuse to accept that rating, as I believe the card had potential even before the buff. In 22nd place, we have another Priest card. The new Alexstrasza is also used in experimental control builds focused on healing. The card's main strength is that it can genuinely win games, but the issue is that the deck itself turned out to be completely non-functional. The buff to the Moonwell spell is intended to address this, but it's still doubtful whether it can significantly change the situation. At the moment, the card is closer to a 2-star rating, and the community's pre-release evaluation was almost perfectly accurate.
Abishan reached only 20% utility index. You can encounter this card in Imbue and Dragon archetypes, but its impact on the Hunter class is minimal, making it difficult to determine its true usefulness. Hunter faces the same issue as Priest. The no-hand archetype dominates the class to such an extent that it leaves no room for other strategies. For now, one thing is clear. This legendary card is not effective enough, and both regular players and prominent community members were seriously mistaken about its potential power. The top 20 begins with Chromatus. Paladin has also become an extremely narrow class, where the end-of-turn strategy occupies nearly all available space, leaving no room for alternative playstyles. I can't recall such a massive imbalance within classes. This card was also used in experimental versions of end-of-turn and aura builds but failed to secure a spot in the core list, as its impact on matches wasn't significant enough. Its only advantage is that it appeared in relatively stronger decks, but it's still hard to call it completely useless. Overall, the community slightly overestimated this card's potential, and once again, Clark Hellscream was closest to the truth.
Merithra of the Dream has a utility index of 23%. The card is used in its own archetype, but that archetype accounted for only about 2% within the class. This is the first card on our list that could occasionally be seen at Legend rank. Overall, the strategy is relatively competitive, but its presence was extremely niche due to the overwhelming dominance and efficiency of Imbue Druid. Because of this, it's very difficult to determine the card's true potential. Druid was heavily nerfed, but perhaps not enough for this card to step out of the shadows. The overall 2.5-star rating from content creators and the audience turned out to be almost perfectly accurate for the post-release period. Viranov is one of the biggest surprises. Somehow, the card managed to reach a 25% utility index. Its role has been very limited, but it found its way into 5 different experimental strategies, although it failed to establish itself in any of them. Players are still trying to find new niche ways to use it. Let's put it this way. At the very least, the card proved to be suitable for experimentation, and given the very low expectations, that's not bad.
The main strength of Victor Nefarious was visibility. This is the first card on our list to achieve over 1% popularity across all ranks, and even around 0.5% at Legend rank with Inherent and Herald strategies. The effectiveness of these experiments was unsatisfactory, but despite that, nearly every 4th Death Knight tried the card. The effect of creating a zombie dragon is more fun than truly competitive, which ultimately led to the card completely disappearing from the meta just before the balance patch. Overall, the card was playable, but not truly meta-relevant. Magma ranks slightly higher due to its versatility. This is one of the most dangerous cards in the expansion, as it allows for infinite token generation. Players tried to find ways to use it even in the most unexpected scenarios. Another key advantage is that it has a more positive impact on win rates compared to Nefarious. At the same time, the card remains extremely niche and is barely noticeable within Hunter due to the severe class imbalance and the dominance of the no-hand strategy. Because of this, evaluating its true potential is incredibly difficult. One thing is certain, in the post-release meta, this is definitely not a 4-star card, and after the balance changes, it's unlikely that its usefulness will remain the same.
In 15th place is Cho'Gall. This is another colossal minion that you've almost certainly encountered multiple times in the meta. Nearly 20% of Warlocks use the card after release. It was tested in a variety of strategies built around abuse mechanics, and it found its main home in Egg Warlock. However, the twist is that over time, players discovered that the deck performs better without this expensive colossal minion, and it has now been completely removed from popular builds. At launch, the card's impact definitely seemed higher than a 2-star rating, but its moment in the spotlight ended very quickly. Another major surprise is that Volcanoes landed right in the middle of the list. Yes, this is not a useless card, as many initially believed. It managed to secure a slot in some versions of burn strategies, not all, but enough, that demonstrated competitive win rates, both before and even after the balance patch. This makes it the first card on our list that still remains visible on the fringes of the meta. However, a 36% utility index is still not a strong enough argument to craft it. In my opinion, the community significantly underestimated this card. It definitely didn't deserve to be ranked near the very bottom.
Warrior turned out to be the best class in terms of diversity. Players had the opportunity to explore several fairly strong archetypes, and none of them became overwhelmingly dominant. Commander Geddon did not see widespread play. Given the class's high popularity, it remained an almost invisible tool for Warrior. So why is it ranked so high? First, the limited experiments within Quest and Dragon strategies showed solid performance. Moreover, the card can still be encountered even now, albeit much less frequently. Its most important advantage is its usefulness in Wild, which is extremely rare for a new expansion. Based on the post-release results, a 3-star rating accurately reflects its overall usefulness in Hearthstone. However, I'm not confident it will remain relevant in Standard, as its effectiveness is clearly declining. And here comes the biggest shock of the expansion. Azshara ended up with only a 43% utility index. The card was fairly visible within its class, forming the foundation of the Herald strategy. But unfortunately, its effectiveness fell short of expectations. At high ranks, the strategy is barely competitive. Moreover, just before the balance patch, it nearly disappeared from the meta. I want to remind you that the community had almost unanimously declared this card the most powerful in the set. In reality, however, it didn't even make it into the top 10 most useful cards.
Now we can finally move on to cards with over 50% utility index, real crafting candidates that are firmly established in the current meta. Archmage Kalik has proven its high value in the burn archetype. More than half of all mage players include this card in their decks. But the most important factor is its win rate. The deck remains competitive even at legend rank. The card has a positive impact on winning, especially when drawn early. Its main drawback is its lack of flexibility, as it is used in only one strategy. Additionally, the burn archetype itself isn't dominant, and players have yet to find a place for it in Wild. Overall, the community assessed this card's potential very accurately. In 10th place is Arisen Onyxia, which serves as the foundation of the Herald core for Death Knight. This strategy dominated the meta immediately after release, but due to insufficient effectiveness, players gradually lost interest. Players experimented with different rune combinations and even tried integrating the core into the Heron strategy. Flexibility is a major advantage here, as is its class impact, which exceeded 60%. However, due to low efficiency, the card lost all of its initial momentum. Balance changes have given the deck a slight boost. Let's see whether that's enough to bring it back into the meta. In terms of impact, RegisKillbin gave the most accurate prediction, while in terms of efficiency, Clark Hellscream was closer to the truth.
In 9th place is Gan Cursed King, another surprise of the post-release period. In practice, it turned out to be easier to activate the card's effect than expected, and the combination of upgrading and discounting the hero power is still relevant. Its average popularity reached around 3%, including at legend rank. 7 different strategies experimented with this card, suggesting strong potential flexibility, although its primary use case became no-hand hunter. Moreover, the average win rate of these decks is positive. In my opinion, the community slightly underestimated this card. In 8th place is Sinestra. Rogue faces similar internal balance issues as many other classes. However, in this case, the imbalance is not caused by one overwhelmingly dominant strategy, but rather by the complete lack of viable alternatives. As a result, 97% of decks include this card, once again highlighting the severe lack of diversity. Even a minor buff to the strategy only reinforces this trend. The card's impact is extremely high and, unlike many others, has remained consistent over time. The Herald strategy has consistently hovered around competitiveness, maintaining an average win rate of about 50%, and after the patch, there are already signs of improvement. Given that Sinestra has become the defining card of Rogue, I believe the entire community misjudged both this card and the strategy as a whole.
Nespir Enthralled has reached a 70% utility index. This is effectively the king of the meta. Its influence within Demon Hunter stands at 67%. Its primary use case is of course the no minion strategy, which boasts the highest efficiency. The card's average popularity is around 4%, but in recent days its influence has noticeably increased, including at legend rank. Using this card significantly improves your chances of winning. Without a doubt, this is an excellent card with great potential. Once again, based on my personal impression, Clark Hellscream was closer to the truth than anyone else. In 6th place is Nosdormu, a card that has found its way into nearly 90% of Paladin decks. It has almost become a tradition to give this class explosive cards in nearly every expansion. Nosdormu has a powerful effect capable of heavily influencing match outcomes, and its flexibility allows it to fit into a wide range of scenarios. The only drawback is Paladin's overall low popularity. The class is effective, but players tend to ignore it. Overall, the community's evaluations were very close to reality, with Zeddy being the most accurate.
Breaking into the top 5 is Colossal Ragnaros. The card is very popular, and the dragon strategy it is used in is highly effective. At the same time, the Herald core within control archetypes turned out to be a failure. Overall, more than 50% of warriors have used this card since release. But here's the paradox: within Dragon Synergy, its direct impact is not that significant. The deck tends to win before turn 8 and doesn't aim to fully utilize Ragnaros. Moreover, drawing the card often negatively affects your win rate. Despite this, players keep it because it enables Herald synergies. Overall, the community gave a very accurate assessment of the card's usefulness, with only Clark Hellscream standing out due to an overly extreme evaluation. In 4th place is Wickerfawn, with its utility index approaching 90%. This card has enough potential to break our algorithm, and only the initial underestimation of its effect prevented that. This colossal spider generates a board and snowballs in stats, creating massive problems for the opponent, especially in low-resource scenarios. To deal with it, opponents are forced to invest a huge amount of resources. Initially, players used the card only in Trent strategies, but its flexibility allowed it to firmly establish itself in imbue builds as well. Before the balance patch, every 4th popular deck included this card, which is simply insane. The balance changes mainly targeted the class's core strategies, but they do not directly affect the usefulness of this colossal spider. In terms of usefulness, Clark Hellscream once again provided the most accurate evaluation.
In 3rd place is Ultraxion, a technical card that supports Herald strategies. It occupied over 40% of the meta during the post-release period, and this result remains stable. The card is not strong on its own but is an irreplaceable support piece. This is definitely a 5-star card. Alakir Lord of Storms surpassed a 90% utility index, even though the card lacks flexibility and players were unable to integrate the Herald core into other strategies. However, it has found a small but highly effective niche in Wild and of course, incredibly impactful and efficient in Standard. Herald Shaman became completely out of control before the balance patch, and Alakir played a major role in that. If the card hits the board, it often leads directly to victory. Every shaman runs this card, largely because just like Rogue, the class simply has no real alternatives. The strategy has taken a slight hit after the balance changes, but in my opinion, it's not critical. Overall, the community evaluated the card's potential correctly.
And finally, in 1st place we have Deathwing. The card is extremely influential, highly efficient, and also has a viable use case in Wild. The only thing preventing it from reaching a full 100% utility index is the overall win rate of the decks it appears in. Not all Herald strategies are equally effective, especially at legend rank, which lowers the card's overall performance metrics. The buffs will undoubtedly further increase its impact on the meta. This is objectively the most useful card in the set, and the community recognized it flawlessly, even before release.
So, in terms of predicting the usefulness of legendary cards, the best forecaster of the Cataclysm post-release season is Clark Hellscream. In our opinion, he made the highest number of accurate predictions. Congratulations!
As for us, we're especially interested in how the usefulness of these new cards will evolve over the long term, and we will continue to monitor it. We're confident that many surprises still lie ahead, especially after the release of class sets.
Friends, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your impressions of the second post-release week?
Have your impressions of the meta changed after the balance patch? Did the nerfs and buffs have a sufficiently positive impact?
Let us know your thoughts below and join the polls in your community tab. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to support our content and stay updated.
Finally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.